Peace be upon you. This is Said Mirza from reallyNotReason.com, and today I wanted to address the question, who are the Quranists? Or who are the Quraniyun? Or who are the Quran alone followers? Now, first things first, this name, Quranists or Quraniyun, is actually given to us by the Sunnis and Shias who just cannot fathom that there is a group of people who are not sectarians like them. They don't have a sectarian ideology like them, who are believers in God and the last day and hold fast to the Quran. And they accept Muhammad as a messenger and prophet of God, as it says in the Quran. This is chapter 33, verse 40. Muhammad is not the father of any of your men, but the messenger of God and the seal of the prophets, and God is knowing of all things. So the people who follow the Quran alone, who believe in the words of God, they accept this statement. So that's the first thing. Anyway, this whole mentality, unfortunately, is because, there's a saying that if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And for the Sunnis, unfortunately, their mindset is that the sects, they're the safe sect, right? They're the safe sect. Whatever sect they are, Sunni or Shia or whatever, they're the safe sect. So any other person that comes and says, look, forget these sects, let's focus on implementing the message of God, following the message of God, the Quran, in its totality, and that we reject these sectarian ideologies, and we don't consider ourselves to be a part of a sect. We consider ourselves to be Muslims in the sense that the Quran uses the word as submitters to God. That's how the word Muslim is used. They don't like that because it just completely I guess blows up their mind or something like that. I don't know exactly what it is, but this is really what the hatred towards the Quran alone followers is about. That they don't conform to this sectarian ideology. They don't follow these self-proclaimed leaders of men, these scholars of Islam, these mullahs, sheikhs, muftis, imams. They don't follow them. They are using their own reason and following the Quran and doing what the God says, to think, to reflect, to remember, to study. So this is really what it is. I mean, I consider myself as a Muslim, and yes, I am a Quran alone follower, but that's because I have done my due diligence on the Quran, and I've come to the conclusion that it is from God. Not because I've been told by other men that it's from God, it's because the evidences in it is sufficient. The testimony of the Quran is sufficient and precise, so it stands up on its own merit, really. And the Quran commands me to follow it, and that's what I'm doing. And by the way, this is what the Prophet and Messenger Muhammad did too. Muslims seem to forget that Muhammad was the first Quran alone follower. He was not inventing anything on his own. He didn't come up with any laws. The law of God is in the Quran, and he was simply following the Quran. And to back that up, here is the Quran itself. It says here in chapter 46, verses 9 onwards, "Say thou, I am no new thing among the messengers, and I know not what will be done with me or with you. I follow only what is revealed to me, and I am only a clear warner." Verse 10 continues, "Say thou, have you considered if it be from God? And you deny it, and a witness bore witness among the children of Israel to the like thereof, and he believed when you have waxed proud. God guides not the wrongdoing people." So, Prophet Muhammad himself was told to proclaim that he was no new thing among the messengers, and he did not know what would be done with him or with us, and he was to say that he followed only what was revealed to him, which is the Quran. The Quran is the only thing that was revealed to him, and there can be no doubt about the veracity of this statement, because the whole theology of the Sunnis is that Muhammad knew what was going to happen later down the line, the signs, the day of judgment, and the Quranists are going to rise. This is all somehow confirming the hadith. This is all lies. Prophet Muhammad had nothing to do with the hadiths, and even if he did write down, let's just suppose he did write down his sayings and actions, and his laws, we are told to follow the Quran alone. And as far as that statement about obey God and obey the messenger, that has to be read in context, and it's referring specifically to his role as a war prophet, as in Prophet Muhammad was brought the sword. He was fighting the unbelievers, and in those contexts is talking about obeying the messenger. I made a separate video on this subject, obey God and obey the messenger, where I've looked at all the instances in the Quran about this phrase. So please definitely check that out before you start sending me hate mail. The thing about the scholars of Islam is that they take things out of context, and they twist words, which the Quran has already told us that the children of Israel were doing before. So they twist words, and they make it sound like that's what their viewpoint is, what the Quran is saying, but that's not exactly true. And those who understand the Quran, who read the Quran, and who read the Quran, they know that what they're saying are lies. And if you want more information on that, I suggest you check out my video on the misguiders of men, in which I open up this whole Pandora's box and show you how the scholars of Islam are essentially misguiding men. That's actually their function in life, by the way. That's what they're for. They're there to misguide. So nothing new. The Christian priests are doing the same thing, and the Jewish rabbis are doing the same thing. Not all of them, most of them, and this is in the Quran. Suffice it to say, our belief in the Quran is not because we were told that it's from God. It's because we have done our own due diligence, and we find proofs that strengthen our faith, because the Quran is showing us, look, these are the people, this is what they're doing, and then we go and we verify, and we're like, yeah, these are the people. I guess this is kind of an aside, but I wanted to talk a little bit about my background, because I think a lot of Quranists or Quran alone followers or Quraniyun, they have a similar background. This is not some sort of movement in the sense that it's being pushed by the West or Israeli interests or anything like that. It's not even actually a movement. We don't expect to grow in numbers because the Quran already says that the majority is astray. So we believe in the Quran, so obviously we understand that the majority the vast majority will always be misguided. This is believing in the words of God. Okay, and to prove that, I'm going to give you some verses, and this is chapter 6, verses 114 to 116. Is it other than God I should seek as judge, when he it is that sent down to you the writ set out and detailed? And those to whom we gave the writ know that it is sent down from thy Lord with the truth. So be thou not of those who doubt. And perfected is the word of thy Lord in truth and justice. There is none to change his words, and he is the hearing, the knowing. And if thou obey most of those upon the earth, they will lead thee astray from the path of God. They follow only assumption, and they are only guessing. These are not my words. This is from the Quran. Go verify this. Doesn't make any difference what translation you're using. They're all pretty much the same translations. Anyway, so what I was trying to say is that God has sent down the writ, the Al-Kitab, the law. It is set out in detail. It has everything is here, and what God has left out, that is up for your own judgment and your own intellect to decide upon. But He has given us the law, and it's in the Quran, and we follow the law. Okay, and we accept God when He says that it is set out in detail, the Kitab, and that His words are complete and perfected. Okay, we accept that. And we also know that the majority is astray. because this is what the Quran is saying, right? So I don't expect this thing to take off and everyone becomes a Quran alone follower. That's not going to happen, and that's further proof that the Quran is a divine text, because it's already telling you that. But I guess the major divide, the dispute between, let's just take Sunniism and Quran alone, is that Sunniism, for all intents and purposes, it is taking the Hadith literature as its law, right? Most of the laws and the rituals and the procedures are from the Hadith literature, with a little bit of Quran sprinkled in. This is how it works. I mean, if you've ever, I guess I'll give you a little bit of background for me first, and then I'll continue on. So I was born and raised in a Sunni Muslim family in Karachi, Pakistan. So my formative years were in Karachi in Pakistan, and I used to go pray at the masjid, and my grandmother taught me how to pray. I saw all my family members praying. We weren't really devout Sunnis in the sense that we were big on, okay, 5 times a prayer, and you don't do this, you get beaten and all this punishments, and we weren't that extreme, but we were moderate Sunni family, which is how it was when I was growing up, people around us, and no one really read the Quran to understand it. No one really read the Hadith to understand it either. We just kind of absorbed the information, mostly which was Hadith, through the lectures that the mullah gave at the masjid, and obviously the family members would share something once in a while. So those were my formative years, right? I never questioned anything I was being told, and I thought, okay, we were on we are right. So this continued on pretty much throughout my formative years. Then I came to the U.S. to study, and I was, like I said, I was a kind of a moderate Muslim, if you want to use that word, and didn't really believe anything. I mean, it's just something that I was doing because everyone else was doing with me. And when I came to the U.S., the university I went to was a very it was a white university. There weren't any, there weren't a lot of Pakistanis there. I think I knew maybe 1 or 2 guys there. I wasn't really friends with them, and I as my nature, I'm an introvert, and I don't really make friends easily. So for me, a lot of time was spent being alone, or consuming Star Trek, and I was going to these parties and school parties and all that, but I just thought that was just dumb, and plus, I'm not really sociable either, so I didn't really feel comfortable. So I didn't really get into all of this stuff, the drinking and the drugs and all that. But I focused on my studies, and I got my degree, and then I got a job somewhere else, and I worked, I was, the place that I went to was up north in the U.S., really cold, and I was there pretty much, kind of living like a hermit for 4 or 5 years. It was more like just me being alone, kind of just kind of just living day by day. I was honestly depressed at that point. I didn't really see the point of doing all this, but I knew there wasn't anything for me in Pakistan either. And so I guess I started looking at these questions more as to, what is religion? What am I supposed to do? Because, obviously there's a tension. What I was taught when I was growing up, and then coming to a Western society, which has a different way of thinking and a different way of doing things, actually a complete opposite way of doing things. I was just not really understanding, I was kind of at the crossroads, should I just follow the Western society mentality and just be immoral, or should I keep to my my education, my background, and what I learned, and that got me looking into Islam more and more. And I repented to God at that time. I think I was probably in my mid-20s, and I was reading hadith. To be honest with you, I was reading a lot of hadith back then, trying to understand Islam, because that's what I thought Islam was, mostly hadith. Like the Quran was something that you couldn't understand. And I remember going on online forums. There was this one called freeminds.org, which is still existing. I remember going there. I don't know, it came on a search or something. I was searching for hadith or something, and I started reading articles on there, and people were talking about the Quran alone, and the Quran is easy to understand, and the Quran has nothing to do with the hadith, and the hadith is made up. And that really, I guess, I'm curious by nature. I don't really pass judgment on ideas or things. I usually just, I want to learn. That's who I am. So I started looking into what they were saying, and I remember reading an article about the Kaaba, where the author was saying that this is idol worship. And coming from that, after reading the article, I thought, yeah, this guy is absolutely right. This is idol worship. So right there and then, I knew that this whole thing was just this whole Islam thing had nothing to do with what the prophets were teaching and what the Quran was teaching, because idol worship is idol worship, and there's no way to dress it up. It is what it is. And this, I think I got to this conclusion when I was maybe 24, 25, pretty young. I started telling my family members about it, and obviously they were all aghast at what I was saying, and that something was wrong with me, and where are you coming up with these ideas and all this, and I did that for a couple of years, and basically after being kind of told to be just shut up, I figured, okay, fine, whatever, I'm not gonna waste my time. And I just kind of left this whole thing, and just decided I want to do something else, and get married, start a family, and do. And I did that. Kind of went off the path of the Quran path or the Islam path, and just was like, okay, whatever. Did that for 10 years actually. And then at the age of 35 is when I started really having a crisis. I had some deep questions about what I was doing, and if it was moral or not, and just these things happen to men. They happen. I don't think anyone has not come across that point where you thought, is this it? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Like, what am I doing with my life? So after doing all that, I think at 35 is when I started to really seriously start reading the Quran, and I think at that point also, obviously God is always guiding. He's always there to help the believers. He's there. He's our ally and protector. The Quran talks about it at length, and I remember stumbling across Sam Garen's videos back then, and this whole issue of the salat being a prayer, or is it a duty? What is it? That had been bugging me for a long time, and I never really got a satisfactory answer to that. And when I looked at Brother Garen's work, I read it very carefully, and I came to the conclusion, I'm like, yeah, this guy is spot on. This is exactly what it means. Salat means duty. It's not a prayer in the sense that Muslims think it's a prayer. Obviously it is, worship is a duty, but not all worship is duty. That's really what it is. And now the clarity is that uphold, when Quran uses the word Aqimus Salat, it's saying uphold the commandments of God, which is what the Al-Kitab is. The Al-Kitab has commandments in it, the rules, serve not save God, be good to your parents and give in charity. These are all salats. These are all duties. So this is what is being meant by uphold the duty. And so, I was like, this guy has actually done the legwork, the homework, and I was convinced that, yeah, what he's saying is correct. And I spent a lot of time studying what he had done, and obviously I contacted him, and we had a very good working relationship, and I helped him with his project, and he helped me see a lot of things, and so that was that. So it's not like I'm a disciple of Sam Garens, or I'm a disciple of Ghulam Ahmad Parvez or anything like that. It's nothing to do with that. If someone comes in with the right work, and they come to correct conclusions, and we see that, we read what they've done, and we agree with them, doesn't mean we're a follower of them. It just means that we accept what they've done. I mean, there's no harm in that. So I don't really get into that whole debate, oh, you're following this one. I don't really follow anyone. I follow the Quran alone, and God's guidance. That's what it is. And I think all Quran alone believers, they are firm in that aspect, that they are trying to follow the guidance of God to their abilities. And this is really the core of the topic here, because Sunnis, because they are just brainwashed sheep, and that's what they are. Let's be honest. They want a leader. They want to follow someone. If I go on the day of judgment, then this person, this mufti, is gonna, take care of things, which is what the intercession is all about, right? Shifa. So this is what their assumption is. This is what's gonna happen. But you're gonna stand alone on the day of judgment in front of God, and you will have to answer for what you did. Really, that's what it is. So anyway, now coming back to the Quran alone stance. So the Quran alone and the Sunni stance are diametrically opposed. Why? Because the Sunni, the religion of Islam, really what it is just a construct that you have these five pillars, and that the Quran and the Hadith are on the same authority level, and the sheikhs and the muftis and imams are the guiders, and this is what the package is, right? That's what a package. This is the complete package. You take this package. The Quran alone approach is totally different, because the Quran alone approach is that the sheikhs, muftis, imams are worthless. They're not gonna, we don't want to rely upon any man. We want to rely upon God alone. We want to study the Quran for ourselves, and we want to implement what the Quran is saying to the best of our abilities. And this is why you have that the such a spectrum of different Quran alone followers. Someone says, "Oh, look, these Quran alone followers can't even agree on how many prayers and etc. etc." Ha ha ha. Fine, they don't agree on how many prayers. They don't agree on how to pray. Okay, these are all superficial things, by the way. The real issue is whether you follow the law of God or not. Really, that's what the core is. If you are following the commandments of God, my current project, what is focused on is elucidating, taking these laws out from the Quran, the laws of inheritance, the laws of marriage, divorce. These are all laws that are in the Quran that you need to implement. So really, this is what it's about. If you're implementing the laws of God, the rest of the superficiality, how many fasts you do or what time you have to fast, and this stuff is not important. This is all superficial stuff. And so this is why you have such a spectrum of Quran alone followers, because we don't have a single authority. We don't accept sheikhs or muftis or imams or anyone as leaders or as guiders. So you will have this, then obviously that's just the way it is. That's totally fine. Everyone is following their own path in a way that they are following. As long as they stay within the broad confines of the law, that is fine. There's nothing. God is not saying anywhere in the Quran that you have to follow something in this manner exactly. Yeah, submission to God, I understand, but submission to God is a submission to God. That's an abstract concept, right? So, the Quran alone followers are those who believe in God's book in the Quran, and they follow to the best of their abilities the totality of the Quran, and they reject any outside literature such as the Hadith literature, which is sometimes called the Sunnah literature. They reject the traditions and rituals of the religion of Islam because they are not found in the Quran, or they might do them too. There are some Quran unknown followers who do pray the standard way that the Muslims pray. But really, the core of the idea is that they take Quran as the source of law, and they accept that the Quran was revealed to Muhammad as it says in the Quran. See, these things are in the Quran already. There's no need to go out and invent stories. This is all in the Quran, and they accept the Quran alone as a source of guidance, and that it is sufficient. If you want to go in, if you want to earn God's acceptance and be entered into the garden, then the Quran alone is sufficient. All the answers are in it already. And if something has not been explained in the Quran, or something is not detailed in the Quran, then it's up to your best judgment, and you decide what the best course of action is. People make mistakes all the time, and you are given the authority to exercise your own judgment and intellect. This is what the word Khalifa means. When God says He's placing a Khalifa on the earth, a successor is someone who acts on someone's authority, right? A vicegerent is the proper translation. A vicegerent, this is the old English, where the viceroy of India was this person who was in charge of all the affairs that were happening in India, but he ultimately reported to the queen. So this is the idea of a successor. So these are what the Quranists are. For my part, I can say that I believe in the Quran alone, and I accept the Quran as final and sufficient, and it's a clear, complete, and preserved book, and that I accept that Muhammad is the seal of the prophets and the messenger, as the Quran states, and I accept that I accept God as my Lord, and He is my protector. He is my ally, and on the day of judgment, I will have to answer to Him, and this is all there is to it, really. Name calling and insults and ridicule. If you read the Quran, you'll find that throughout the ages, all societies, the examples, the messengers are there for you. They were ridiculed, they were mocked, they were humiliated because they came against the majority, and they were talking of something which the majority didn't quite understand. Really, that's what it is. This whole concept, again, that's the same idea. If you are stuck in a sectarian ideology, in a sectarian way of thinking, you will look at other people with that mentality that this is a sect, when it's not a sect. Okay, you are in a sect, and what we're talking about is including, is sort of a higher principle. We're talking about that those people who believe in God in the last day and do good works shall have their reward on the day of judgment, and that whoso submits his face to God, and then that's all there is to it. That's what the word Muslim means again, and this is all we're trying to say and promote. What I've done with the projects that I've taken on, with the book that I wrote, Will You Not Reason, it's basically a compilation of all the verses in the Quran that defend the position of the Quran alone followers, and also dismantles the religion of Islam, because I grew up in the religion of Islam. I was taught the religion of Islam, and I did not have any knowledge of the writ. I did not have any knowledge of the Quran, and I just basically, everything kind of trickled down, and I learned stuff, mostly hearsay and just stories, and I just was taught the rituals, and that was the end of it. And I think that's the state of most Muslims. But then God guided me, and He opened up the Quran for me, and I read it, and I understood what is being talked about, and I realized that that what I was following was a false religion. It was as I said in my last video, that it's actually a shirk-based religion, because the Muslims, by putting Muhammad at the same level as God, by accepting the laws that are written in the Bukhari with the laws that God gave in Quran, they are ascribing partnership to God. This is how the Quran defines it, and you can check out that video as well. I made that. I think the last video was that video. Nothing. We're not. People get really worked up about, oh, you're disrespecting the Prophet Muhammad, or etc., etc. Nothing to do with that. We're not disrespecting Prophet Muhammad. We are just saying that God has sent down the Quran. It is clear, complete, fully detailed, and that the laws need to be derived from the Quran alone. Whether the stories or hadith, the literature that was compiled by Bukhari, Muslim, etc., whether it's authentic or not is it's outside. Is irrelevant, really, because God has commanded us to hold fast to the law, the book, the Quran. That's all. So we just take that and we move forward with that. And we don't get into this whole quagmire of this hadith literature, because at the end of the day, what the hadith does is it distracts you from the Quran. This is true. If you've ever watched a sheikh or mufti or imam, a scholar of Islam, his lecture, 9 times out of 10, he will be quoting Bukhari. Okay? He might put in a verse or two from the Quran, but the rest of it is Bukhari. This is what the state of affairs is of the Muslims. And so, if you don't follow the book of God, if you don't implement it, then, for you it's painful retribution and humiliation in this life. This is the facts. So, we're just trying to implement the laws of God in the Quran and follow the Quran alone. So I hope this video is some use to you if you are questioning the religion you were born into, and you were interested to know who a Quranist is, who a Quran alone follower is. This is straight from the horse's mouth. I consider myself a Quran alone follower, or as some people label us as Quranists, Quraniyun, whatever. I consider myself as a Muslim, a submitter to God, and I accept the Quran's testimony, and I accept the Quran to be the preserved word of God. God willing, until next time, peace and blessings be upon you.